The information in this video comes from thorough research. Please share your thoughts on the video John Titor, the time traveler who sparked a digital legend, in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. The future is not set in stone. It is shaped by the decisions we make in the present. John Titor. The history of John Titor. The emergence of John Titor. John Titor's story first began to unfold in the year 2000 when he began posting on internet forums, particularly on the Time Travel Institute forum, which specialized in discussions about time travel and related theories. His first post appeared in November of that year, where he introduced himself as a time traveler from the year 2036. Titor's initial claims were modest. He mentioned that he was on a mission to retrieve an IBM 5100, an old computer model from the 1970s, which he stated was necessary to resolve a programming issue in his time. He claimed that this particular model of computer was essential for solving a critical problem in the year 2036, making his journey to the past necessary. At the time, the idea of time travel was nothing new in science fiction, but Titor's story stood out because of the specific details he provided. His claims were not just about futuristic technology, but also about global events, his personal experiences, and the technology that allowed him to travel through time. According to Titor, his time machine was a modified vehicle of sorts, powered by a gravity distortion mechanism that allowed it to manipulate time. This technical explanation was detailed enough to spark the curiosity of people who were well-versed in physics and technology. As the story unfolded, Titor became more involved in the discussions on the forum. He answered questions from members, elaborating on his experiences and the future he claimed to come from. Over the months, he explained his mission in greater depth, sharing various aspects of life in the future and offering detailed predictions about the trajectory of world events. The time machine and its mechanics. One of the most compelling aspects of John Titor's story was his detailed description of his time machine. Unlike many fictional depictions of time travel, Titor did not present his machine as a sleek, mysterious device that could be easily explained away by sci-fi tropes. Instead, he described a bulky, complex apparatus that was built for practical use, with a high degree of technological detail. According to Titor, his time machine was a modified vehicle that used a gravity distortion field to travel through time. The most striking feature of Titor's time machine was its energy source. He explained that the machine required a large amount of energy to operate, which he described as 1 small cubic foot of exotic matter. This matter, he said, could manipulate the fabric of space-time, allowing the machine to travel through different points in history. Titor also mentioned that his machine was equipped with a radiation shielding system to protect him from the harmful effects of time travel, suggesting that time travel was not without its risks. Furthermore, Titor claimed that his time machine was not a simple time travel device. It was a tool that allowed for movement across multiple timelines. He stated that time travel could lead to the creation of alternate realities or parallel universes, which could be affected by actions taken in the past. This idea, which links time travel to the multiverse theory, added another layer of complexity to Titor's narrative and generated further discussions among the online community. Titor's technical explanations, although speculative and unproven, were detailed enough to convince many that he was either an expert in theoretical physics or, at the very least, someone with a deep knowledge of science fiction concepts. His story resonated with people who were curious about time travel and the potential for it to become a reality in the future. Predictions of the future. While Titor's time machine and its mechanics were certainly fascinating, it was his predictions about the future that ultimately captured the imagination of a broader audience. Titor spoke at length about the world he came from, a post-apocalyptic future in which the United States was embroiled in a second civil war. Global conflict had devastated much of the world, and society had been forced to rebuild from the ashes of the old order. According to Titor, the year 2036 was a time of recovery, but it was also a time of great instability. He warned that the early 21st century was a critical period in history, and that certain decisions and events would have far-reaching consequences. Some of his key predictions included the U.S. Civil War. Titor predicted that the United States would experience a second civil war starting in the mid-2000s. This war, he claimed, would be sparked by political divisions, government overreach, and civil unrest. He painted a picture of a fractured nation, with different factions fighting for control. Global conflict. Titor also spoke of global conflicts, particularly in the form of World War III, which he suggested would occur in the early 21st century. He predicted that the war would be a devastating nuclear conflict, with widespread destruction across the globe. The collapse of governments. Titor foresaw the collapse of many governments and political structures, particularly in the Western world. He warned of societal breakdowns, economic collapse, and the rise of martial law in various parts of the world. The role of technology. Despite the grim future, Titor also emphasized the role of technology in the rebuilding process. He claimed that by the time of his return to the future in 2036, humanity had developed advanced technologies that allowed for the healing and restoration of the planet, though it came at the cost of significant loss and suffering in the years prior. Titor's predictions were often vague and open to interpretation, which left many wondering whether he was simply guessing about future events or if he had truly seen them unfold. While some of his predictions, such as the election of controversial political figures, seemed to have a certain degree of plausibility, others, like the Civil War and nuclear conflict, did not materialize. This led to a split in public opinion. Some believed Titor was a legitimate time traveler, while others dismissed him as an elaborate hoax. The decline of John Titor's story. After several months of posting on online forums, John Titor's activity began to decline in early 2001. His last post came in March of that year, and after that, he vanished from the online world. Many speculated about the reason for his disappearance. Was he simply a hoaxer who had grown tired of maintaining the illusion, or did something happen to him in the future that prevented him from returning? Some people continued to follow the Titor story, combing through his posts and analyzing the details of his claims. Others moved on, dismissing him as just another online myth. However, the legacy of John Titor persisted in the form of books, documentaries, and online discussions, where his predictions and time travel theories continue to be debated and analyzed. The legacy of John Titor. While John Titor disappeared from the forums in 2001, his story did not fade into obscurity. In fact, it only grew more popular over time, spreading across the internet and into mainstream discussions about time travel and the future. The mystery surrounding Titor's identity and his predictions about global events continued to fuel speculation. Over the years, various books, articles, and documentaries were produced exploring the John Titor phenomenon. Some took Titor's claims at face value, positing him as a true time traveler who had either been forced to return to the future or had somehow been silenced. Others treated the story as a brilliant internet hoax, a piece of performance art designed to blur the lines between fiction and reality. One of the key elements that kept John Titor's story alive was the fact that his predictions, while mostly unfulfilled, remained captivating. For many, the allure of time travel was not just about the possibility of futuristic technology, but also about the emotional weight of the decisions we make in the present. Titor's warnings about political unrest, civil war, and global catastrophe tapped into deeper fears about the future of humanity, making his narrative emotionally resonant even when it was largely speculative. In the years following his disappearance, online forums dedicated to John Titor continued to thrive, with members dissecting every word of his posts. Some created detailed timelines to compare Titor's predictions to actual events, while others debated the possibility that he had, in fact, been a time traveler with accurate foresight. These discussions were a testament to the lasting impact of his narrative, which had become an enduring part of internet mythology. The phenomenon surrounding John Titor also had a significant cultural impact. In the world of science fiction, his story was cited as one of the most intriguing instances of internet-based storytelling that blended fact and fiction. His time travel narrative became a subject of study for those interested in the role of the internet in creating new forms of myth and legend. Titor's story has continued to be referenced in various books, movies, and TV shows. His name has appeared in works exploring the intersection of time travel and the internet, and his predictions have become part of the broader conversation about future dystopias and the fragility of human civilization. Whether he was a time traveler or simply a product of creative storytelling, John Titor's legacy endures as a curious and thought-provoking chapter in the history of internet lore. John Titor's predictions. Breakdown of his predictions. John Titor's predictions about the future were perhaps the most intriguing and controversial aspect of his story. In addition to describing the technical details of his time machine, Titor provided detailed predictions about the world he claimed to have come from. These predictions range from political upheaval to nuclear war, and although some of them seemed eerily prescient, others have failed to materialize, leading many to question his authenticity. Among his most significant predictions were the following. Civil war in the United States. Titor predicted that by the mid-2000s, the United States would experience a second civil war. According to him, this war would not be fought along traditional North-South lines, but rather would be a conflict between various factions within the country. He described a nation divided by political ideologies, economic crises, and growing frustration with the government. The Civil War, he claimed, would lead to the eventual collapse of the U.S. government and a dramatic shift in global power. Analysis. To date, the U.S. has not experienced a civil war on the scale that Titor predicted. While political divisions in the country have deepened in recent years, particularly in the aftermath of contentious elections and ongoing debates about civil rights and government policy, the country has not faced an all-out civil conflict. Titor's prediction remains unfulfilled, but it continues to be a point of interest for those who view it as a warning about the potential for future instability. World War III. Titor also forecasted a devastating global conflict, which he referred to as World War III. This war, according to his predictions, would begin sometime after 2015 and would involve nuclear weapons. Titor's description of the war was chilling, with widespread devastation and loss of life. He claimed that the war would lead to the collapse of many nations and a reordering of global political structures. Analysis. While the world has experienced numerous conflicts and tensions, particularly in the Middle East, and with the rise of geopolitical tensions between superpowers, World War III has not come to pass. The proliferation of nuclear weapons remains a serious concern, but no major nuclear conflict has occurred. Nonetheless, Titor's warning about the potential for global war resonates with ongoing concerns about the future of international relations. The collapse of governments and societal breakdown. Another key prediction from Titor was the collapse of governments and societal institutions, both in the U.S. and around the world. He spoke of a global crisis that would result in the breakdown of social order, economic systems, and the rise of authoritarian rule. In his future, much of the world had descended into chaos, with survival becoming a top priority for those who remained. Analysis. The idea of societal breakdown is one that has persisted in popular culture, especially in dystopian fiction. While the world has not experienced the level of collapse that Titor predicted, economic inequality, political instability, and social unrest continue to be major issues in many parts of the world. Titor's vision of a fractured society remains an unsettling possibility for many who worry about the future. Technological advancements and the role of computers. Titor frequently spoke about the role of technology in shaping the future. One of the more notable elements of his narrative was his discussion of the IBM 5100 computer. He claimed that this model was vital for solving a programming problem in the future, one that involved a specific issue with the architecture of modern computer systems. In his future, technology was more advanced than it was in his time, with some forms of artificial intelligence and enhanced computational systems becoming critical to the rebuilding process. Analysis. The IBM 5100 was indeed a key piece of technology in the 1970s, and Titor's explanation of its importance was based on real technical knowledge. However, the significance of this computer in his time travel story remains speculative. Today, the role of computers and artificial intelligence has become a critical part of modern society, with AI advancements continuing to play a major role in reshaping industries and daily life. While the specifics of Titor's prediction may not have been entirely accurate, His emphasis on the importance of technology was prescient. How accurate were John Titor's predictions? The accuracy of John Titor's predictions remains one of the most debated aspects of his story. While some of his claims appeared to be eerily prescient at times, many have not come true. For example, his predictions of civil war, nuclear conflict, and societal collapse have not materialized in the way he described. It is worth considering that Titor's predictions were vague and open to interpretation. Many of the events he described, such as political unrest, technological advancements, and societal change, could be seen as plausible future scenarios, even if they didn't unfold exactly as he envisioned. In this sense, Titor's predictions may have been less about offering a concrete forecast of the future and more about highlighting potential dangers and warning signs. Scientific and technical analysis. The science of time travel. John Titor's narrative raised numerous questions about the feasibility of time travel. While many of his claims were speculative and lacked empirical evidence, his story provided an interesting avenue for exploring time travel from a scientific perspective. In this section, we will examine the science behind time travel and how Titor's descriptions fit within the realm of theoretical physics. Einstein's theory of relativity. The theory of relativity, developed by Albert Einstein, is a fundamental part of modern physics. It suggests that time is not a constant, but rather a variable that can be influenced by factors such as gravity and velocity. According to the theory, time slows down as an object approaches the speed of light, a phenomenon known as time dilation. Titor's time machine, with its ability to manipulate gravity and travel through time, loosely aligns with some of the ideas proposed by relativity. However, the concept of traveling backward in time, as Titor claimed to do, remains problematic from a scientific standpoint. While time dilation has been observed in experiments involving high-speed particles, there is no empirical evidence to suggest that backward time travel is possible. Theoretical models of time travel. Several theoretical models of time travel have been proposed by physicists, including the idea of closed time-like curves, CTCs, which are paths through space-time that loop back on themselves. These models suggest that, in certain conditions, time travel could be possible. However, these conditions are highly speculative and require exotic forms of matter and energy that have not been observed in the real world. Titor's description of his time machine, which involved a gravity distortion field and exotic matter, mirrors some of these theoretical concepts. However, the technical details of his machine were vague and inconsistent with our current understanding of physics. As a result, while Titor's narrative fits within the speculative realm of time travel theories, it remains far from a scientifically plausible account of time travel. John Titor's story remains one of the most fascinating internet phenomena. Whether time traveler or an elaborate hoax, his predictions about a war-torn future and societal collapse resonated with many. Though most of his predictions didn't come true, his narrative continues to spark curiosity and debate about the future of humanity, time travel, and technology. Titor's legacy is not just in his claims, but in the questions he raised. How fragile is our society? How do we shape the future with our choices? His story serves as both a warning and a thought-provoking reflection on the unknown paths ahead. Even if we never uncover the truth behind John Titor, his tale remains an enduring part of digital folklore, reminding us of our fascination with time and the future. If you have any experiences related to this topic, be sure to share them with us. Until the next episode, be mindful of the energies around you